On our strike notice, we raised key two issues which are very broad. And one of the issues is about the Social Health Authority discriminating clinical officers in two ways. One is about denying facilities owned by clinical officers and registered by the clinical officers under the Clinical Officers Act, the empanelment. That's to mean denying them a right for contractual so that they can be able to see patients who are registered under the Social Health Authority. The second aspect of that discrimination is the failure to empanel the professional, that's the clinical officer, and subsequently denying them also the right for pre-authorization. What that means is that under the Social Health Authority, it actually provides a requirement for any practitioner to see any patient. You must have been empaneled, meaning you must be enlisted and be given contract to see patient. When patient come to the hospital, like what was happening in Kenyatta yesterday, you must fill a form, whether electronic or physical, and the request that the Social Health Authority allow for a procedure to happen. Now, the Social Health Authority has denied, again, clinical officers who are the majority clinical service provider, and including the area of specialty, they are the majority. Unfortunately, they are imposing an existing laws and policies that for facilities owned by clinical officers to be allowed to see patients, or rather to be able to offer services to Kenyan, they must be seeking a second registration under the KMPDC Act, which is illegal and irregular. Again, for the professional also, they are dictating that for me to see a patient, despite being a specialist, I have to use a registration number for another person who is registered under the KMPDC. Again, there is no law that requires me to do that, because in any way, I'm provided under an Act of Parliament where all Act of Parliament and the regulatory bodies, all of them are the same, because they are established under similar laws. So abrogating a certain regulatory body to be as superior to the other is irregular, because there is no law that has given them that authority. Now, what we are having, or rather what we are experiencing again, is akin to what happened last year, where the government under the Ministry of Health created a problem where there was no problem by revising to disadvantage the salary, or rather the pay, to the interns, and occasioned a strike that ran for over 100 days. Again, on this issue that I'm speaking about, it's about law enforcement, where officers of the government in the Ministry of Health have decided to violate the existing laws, and to that extent directing verbally what they feel that it is good. And if they feel that this is going to enhance service delivery, what they ought to do is to legislate. And now, before they do that, the clinical officer will be starting their strike to enforce law and order. And I must say, the second item of this is also similar, because we have had history with the government going on strike on the issues of promotion, seeking that they provide what is provided under the law, like comprehensive medical cover, and also ensuring that they can be able to treat people equally. And we have been seeking that they transition those who are on contract, including the Global Fund people, the UHC, to be put on permanent and pensionable, so that they are equated to their counterpart where they feel discriminated to iron out that. Again, they have not done that. Several years down, we have signed several agreements, and they have not been able to be implemented. And unfortunately, or rather fortunately for this, when we signed last year return to work as the clinical officers, we registered it in court, and it became a court order whereby it had a timeline on how it was to be implemented, and up to date, a majority of the county government has not promoted our people, never transitioned the contractual staff to permanent and pensionable, or even paying them in tandem with the market rate. That has not happened. And therefore, we are here and we have been moving around sensitizing our member in preparation for the strike that is to start. On Tuesday, we had a meeting with the Council of Governors on the issues of the Social Health Authority, looking at the ramification on what is being happening. They realized that indeed the law favors clinical officer, and they realized that indeed the decision is going to derail service delivery and actually deny accessibility to service. Because if you have over 1,000 facility denied right to see patients, then you have actually limited access to services. And also, a majority of the clinicians who are supposed to see patients, if you limit how they can offer services, you limit services. So they know very well that this is going to affect the county. They did a letter, of which we'll share with you, and they signed with the Minister of Health representative. The Social Health Authority were present, and they agreed that indeed that decision was to be reverted so that we proceed, or rather resume how it has been happening under the NHF, where we have no problem. Now, because of that, yesterday you saw the principal, the cabinet secretary, and the CEO of the Social Health Authority, the Director General, all of them seated and telling Kenyan how the Social Health Authority is doing well. Unfortunately, you saw also Kenyans storming them and telling them that they are telling Kenyan a lie. And indeed, if it's not a lie, you cannot shortchange the law. Just implement the law, because that's what you want to do. Now, the CEO actually rubbished what the Council of Governors did by saying that facilities registered under the Clinical Officers Council must go through the KMPDC for them to get empanelment. And similar to the professional. And that is why we feel that we are in a state of confusion, because law does not seem to be applying, or rather making sense, to most of the public servants. And that is why we feel we will not be a conduit of anyone breaking laws, and that's why we must refuse that, and that's why this strike that we are starting is a making of the government.
Kwina thina wa Social Health Authority, clinical officers tamo monaga arwaru thiini wa counties na thirikari mo makoragwo maina kiwango kiria kinene kia services cia kuveca na huduma kuri arwaru, tondu riu nimo makoretwo makiruta wira wa kwandikira arwaru fomu cia kuria gukoretwo na NHIF, no ati riu kuma no gaukira Social Health Authority ni maugite andu aria mangiandikira arwaru fomu cia Social Health Authority ni maria mai registered thiini wa KMPDC, kana Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentists Council. Kumaanisha maria ma registered na ciama ino ciengi cia councils ta nurses na clinical officers na dentists na dental officers, dental na lab matingivota kwandikira arwaru makavota kuona services. Tukionanagia thiini wa andu aria mai registered thiini wa KMPDC ni population nini muno thiini wa thirikari, thiini wa health workers ni population itangivota kuona andu arwaru maria maroka thiini wa thibitari cionthe, tondu ithagira medical officers thiini wa counties na thibitari cia counties ni anini muno. Na riu Social Health Authority kuria rutaga wira muno ni level 3 na level 2, na nikuo ithagira doctors ni anini muno. Na riu ungiendeka gutumika SHA ni makoragwo services cia igitura. Undu ucio wingi ni gukorwa rikoretwo na kindu gitagwa return to work formula, rio clinical officers makoretwo na mugomo, na thiini wa return to work formula kwi maundu maria magirirwo ni gukorwa mathondeke macigulikiritwo ni county, na promotions, redesignations, na kwandika andu aria mai thiini wa contract matuike thiini wa permanent ma UHC, na maundu mativotekete gwikika na uria kweraniritwe thiini wa return to work formula. Niko riu gukinyete vandu negotiations cia thirikari na ministry na Council of Governors igakorwo itakinyiritie varia maundu magirira ni gukinya, gutikoretwo kwina progress thiini wa negotiation icio cia muthemba ucio.
Na jambo la kusikitisha ni ya kwamba rais anasema SHA lazima ifanye kazi, lakini tumeona makatela ambao wameshika doria pale Ministry of Health ambao ni members wa KMPDC wamesema ya kwamba hakuna mtu mwingine anastahili kutumia SHA isipokuwa the only doctors. Kwa Ministry of Health tuko na different categories, ama tuko na wahudumu wa afya wa vitengo tofauti tofauti ambao wamesomea vitu tofauti tofauti. Tuko nao wale wanaitwa medical doctors, tuko nao wale wanaitwa dentist, tuko na clinic officer ama maafisa wa kliniki, tuko na nurses na wengineo. Lakini kwa Ministry of Health ikiwa imeongozwa na waziri, wamesema ya kwamba it is only doctors can be allowed to use SHA. Mwananchi anajua kwamba ukifika pale hospitali kwa level 2 unapata nurse, unapata clinic officer. Ukifika level 3 unapata nurse, unapata clinic officer. Ukifika level 4 unapata nurse, a clinic officer ndio anafanya huduma, a medical doctor yeye ni administrator level 4. Kwa hivyo unapata ya kwamba ndio uweze kutumia SHA lazima ufike level 5. Na ndio sababu rais anashindwa kwa nini wananchi anasema tumekata SHA ama tumekuwa members wa SHA lakini tunalipa cash. Ni kwa sababu maafisa wa kliniki wameambiwa ni hatia kutumia SHA. Nurses wameambiwa ni hatia kutumia SHA. Na ndipo sisi tunaomba rais aweze kuingilia, kwa sababu wale watu ambao wanapigana na serikali yake ni waziri wake wa afya, ambaye wakati tulikutana na Council of Governors na SHA officials tuliweza kukubaliana ya kwamba tuweze kurudi mahali ambapo clinic officers walikuwa wanaweza kutumia SHA kuweza kuhudumia wananchi. Lakini minister jana kwa maajabu na kwa njia ambayo ilikuwa naibu kabisa aliweza kutokea na maafisa ambao waliweza kusema ya kwamba ni KMPDC peke yake. Na ndiposa tunauliza, ikiwa parliament ilitengeneza Act of Parliament ambayo ilisema kukuwe na clinic officers, ikasema kukuwe na nurses, ikasema kukuwe na medical doctors, wote wako regulated by Act of Parliament. Mbona KMPDC ikakuwa ndio peke yake ambayo inaweza kubali mtu atumie SHA? Isipokuwa kuna zile zingine regulatory authorities kama tuko na Nursing Council, tuko na Council of Clinic Officers na zinginezo mingi zaidi ambazo zimekuwa zikikubaliwa wakati wa NHIF. Unapata wewe kama uko regulated by COC unakubalika kuweza kutumia NHIF ndio uweze kupea mwananchi huduma. Kwa hivyo sisi tunauliza ni kwa sababu gani kakuwa ni KMPDC peke yake? Na sisi tunaomba rais ajue kwamba wale wezi wa NHIF ndio tena wamekusanyika pale ministry na wanataka kutumia SHA ikuwe ni wao peke yao naiba. Na mimi nataka kuchallenge wananchi waangalie zile hospitali zote ambazo ziliweza kuambiwa ziko na wizi wa NHIF. Zote ziko registered under KMPDC. Hakuna hata moja ambayo iko registered under COC. Hakuna hata moja iko registered under Nursing Council. Zote ni za medical practitioners. Kwa hivyo rais wezi wamekusanyika hapo Ministry of Health na wako tayari kupigana na SHA iweze kuanguka, mwananchi endelee kulia. Na mimi nataka kusema ya kwamba ikiwa kila mhudumu wa afya atakubaliwa kuweza kutumia SHA, hatutakuwa na hii kelele ya SHA ambao watu wanasema ifanye kazi. Lakini ikiwa ni doctors peke yao ambao wapatikani pale mashinani, basi wananchi pale mashinani watazidi kulia, watazidi kusema ya kwamba SHA ifanye kazi, na si ati ni SHA ifanye kazi, ni kwa sababu wale makatelo wamekatalia pale Ministry of Afya ndio wanataka iweze kuanguka, ndio rais aonekane ni kama afanye kazi ama rais kazi yake haifanyiki inavyostahili.